Can you feel that, Donnie? Can you feel that kind of little thing going on in the air? The 2021 AFL season is almost upon us. We're just days away from first bounce, and I cannot wait to be up at 1:30 in the morning to watch some footy. My man Donnie, AFL correspondent coach Donnie Hess, how you feeling about this? And you're ready for the season just to get started yesterday, aren't you?
Oh boy, the AFLW season has been a mighty nice appetizer for this AFL season, but I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the AFL season to come. The days cannot come quick enough. Thankfully, the AFLW will get me to that day, and I cannot wait. This is so exciting to see. We are back to normal 20-minute quarters. We're back to some interesting rule changes. So let's see. Let's throw up the
Interesting
footy and let's
way to
get
put
after
it.
it.
Just yeah. Let's roll with interesting. But of course, I'm your host Ross Allen. Like I said, joined by our AFL correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess, and we're here to preview and break down all you need to know going into the 2021 AFL season. But before we get into things, just want to let you know that we are going to be doing a fourth and long tips contest. So for whoever wants to join, come join us. Email us. I'll drop the email in the bio or in all the descriptions and stuff like that. It's just going to be fourthandlongradio@gmail.com. Send us your tips for the season. So you get all your tips in before everything starts. That's just the way we're going to do things. And sorry, we'll do it weekly. You give us your weekly tips. I will get a spreadsheet going. And what we're going to compile all the wins and losses, all the rights and wrongs, and the person at the end of the season that has the most correct games picked will win this very shirt that I'm wearing. Well, not the shirt I'm wearing, but the same design that I'm wearing. You'll get our footy is underrated T-shirt, or you also have your choice at a tank top, whichever one. But if you get that correct, we'll send you this. You'll be our winner of the contest, and we'll go later in the show. We'll be going through our way too early finals brackets, and if you send us in your brackets before the season starts and you get it 100% correct, you will also be a winner. I'm super excited because oh man, it's fun to give away stuff. Also, I really just want to see if someone's actually able to get the bracket all the way right before the season starts. And if that happens, you are an absolute genius. And also, just want to let you know a couple more AFL things going down right now. Of course, we have the AFLW breakdown ran by Donnie Hess in his Donnie's Disposal. We have the most recent Donnie's Disposal. American AFL fans has dropped, and that was with Essendon, the Bombers. And coach, I gotta say, I put this out on Twitter, but Essendon. I'm not an Essendon fan. I'm a Giants fan. They have the best logo in the AFL. Um,
Hard to argue it. The Bombers logo is one of the better ones, and that was one of the more anticipated interviews with Miss Rosanna. It's always great to chat with her and to be able to sit down and chat with her incredible obsession with her AFL obsessed podcast herself. So I was really looking forward to her. So I thought that was one of my better ones.
that was a great one. You should all go check that one out right now. Then also, Coach and I also did a AFL breakdown a couple weeks ago. Change for the sake of change, where we went to that new rule that everyone just loves and is super happy that it's a part of the game. And so you get to hear our take on that and a couple of other stories. But speaking about rule changes, let's talk about the time change again into things. But of course, we're going last year with a condensed season. We had 15-minute quarters, and now we're going back to the normal 20-minute quarters. And apparently, people aren't too pleased through the first few little bit of exhibition games. So I'm okay with it. But like Donnie, you've been seeing all the problem and all the controversy with it.
Oh, the Amy Community Series, how it has opened up Pandora's box a little bit for sure. I know that the first game of the Amy series was a game between Carlton and St. Kilda, and the game lasted another almost hour longer than most of the games lasted last year. And with many communications, listening to podcasts, talking, and reading some articles, there are a lot of Australians that are rather bothered that the game lasted longer. And I almost kind of chuckled a little bit and I went, well, of course it's going to be longer because you added a full quarter back onto your game that you didn't have the year before. You made rules so then you could get more scoring. I would do air quotes, but I don't want to do it any more than I'm already doing them. So I kind of it kind of makes me chuckle a little bit that it's like they can't make up their minds what they want. Do you want longer games with more structure, or do you want high scoring shorter games? It's it's laughable at times, just how much they can't make up their minds what they want.
Exactly. I think you really hit the just make up your mind, because it seems like the same group of people that are complaining this year about the games being too long are the ones that complained about the shortened quarters last season. It's like,
Hmm.
so you complain about short, and then we made it normal. Now you complain it's too long. Okay, just make up your mind, please. If you're going to complain, I'm okay with that, but just be consistent with your complaints. But I think that's too much to ask for. But it's not just this the footy fans. It's sports fans around the world. This is a message that needs to be said to everyone. Where if you're going to complain, be consistent with your complaints and stop. You're not a pancake, man. Stop flip flopping. Okay, it's just.
The life of a fan, unfortunately.
But also, I would be a hypocrite if I said that I didn't do that myself as well, because we've all done it before. As much as it pains us to admit, we've all been there. Even you are all high and mighty over there, Donnie. I'm sure you've done this before too. So
I don't complain about. I try not to complain about the length. What I
mhm.
complain about more is that how much they have adjusted the rules to make it easier for people that have the attention span shorter than a second on a clock. That's the part that irks me, is because I like the actual strategic part of the games sometimes, both in footy and in other sports myself. So when you're changing a game to get more scoring just to attract more eyeballs, I think you manipulate the game for your own particular um kind of your own particular thoughts on what a game
Mhm.
should be, and it kind of bastardizes a lot of things in my personal opinion. But let's not go into that particular
It's you're right.
that
It's all good.
particular
See now,
soapbox.
I enjoy baseball. I'm a little bit of a psycho because I also enjoy a pitcher's duel. So this longer games isn't really going to be that big of a deal for me. But also, I'm just a weird breed that actually enjoys that kind of stuff. It feels like the 1% of any fans that actually do like that enjoy that. But hey, that's what just makes us a little different here. But now let's roll into our actual predictions for the 2021 season. Let's get down to nitty gritty and let's see what we can get right, Donnie, and what the hell we're going to get wrong for this season. And I gotta start off with this statement that if we let's take a little time travel back to last year. Port Adelaide, they were from round one to the from first to last round, they were at the top of the league. They were at the top of the ladder, but they always kind of had that feeling where like, yeah, they're the top team, but they're not really the top team. You know, we just had this gut feeling, and that kind of how it played out in the finals a little bit. And so it's just going to carry over, but they're not going to be the top team. Port Adelaide is going to drop off this season. They're going to miss out the top four, and they might even fall below the top six. You're still going to make the finals, but I believe that they're going to be one of the teams, if not the team, that has the biggest drop in ladder position from last year to this year.
Oh boy, that's an interesting statement. And for me, I don't know. I Port's one of those teams that I think their off season, I think they got stronger. So I'm not. It's hard to back up a regular season championship. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's never. But this Port team is going to give some teams some struggles, and they're definitely not going to be an easy team to beat. I can kind of see what you're saying there. I think they'll drop down, but for me, I have Collingwood.
Mm.
And Collingwood faithful, please don't get angry. I'm just going to say this: your off season was absolutely maniacally nuts. I mean,
You put it in softly
there
there.
are some psycho there are some psych wards that would enjoy your off season because it was absolutely insane. You're you sell out you have a fire sale of several of your superstars going into the free agency period, and then after the free agency period you have a self-imposed meltdown of your front office a little bit with the president Eddie McGuire. I just honestly, this is a Collingwood team that Several of their superstars are out. How is DeGoey's body going to handle up? Is Brody Grundy worth the new contract that he signed before? I see Collingwood dropping out of the eight. I see them dropping 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe even to the bottom part of the ladder just because they've taken such a hit in their lineup. I just don't see them being in the finals, pushing like they have years before. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I just the black and white. I think could be a downer year for the Magpie Army.
It's okay, Magpie Army. I'm here with you. Mason Cox, Coxzilla, and his golden leg is going to take you all the way to the grand finals, so you have that hope. Let's So you guys got. I mean, you might not have done your side, but as long as you got the real American here with that's always going to back Mason Cox and believe he's going to take us to the promised land. I'll roll with you guys all year.
I hope you're right. I really do. Trust me. I hope you are.
That'd be.
I will have definitely have to see for sure.
See, I think I just want to see Mason Cox have a Brownlow medal type year, just because Australia would completely have a gigantic meltdown if that was to go down. So that would
It
be
would be quite
so
it would be
damn
quite
funny.
interesting. It would be quite interesting on Brownlow night if we see if we hear M Cox 3 votes, M Cox 3 votes. Unfortunately, the way some of these refereeing goes, it's going to be very difficult unless he becomes the best midfielding ruck in the entire league, and unfortunately he isn't. But
Oh, damn.
you never
Really
know.
should.
Maybe we'll actually hear an M Cox 3 votes or an M Cox 2 votes at Brownlow night. We'll definitely have to see, but
That's the day I
I don't
want to
know.
live here for, Donnie. But my next statement I want to bring to you is something that might make you a little happy to hear because I'm a greater Western Sydney fan, but I'll show a little respect to the kind of little rival, little I'll call them the little brother of GWS, even though it's totally the other way around. But who cares? I'm going to tell you right now, Donnie, is that given there was a really solid offseason so far, a lot of young talent on this team, I really like what they're building there. Sydney is going to have the biggest increase in ladder position from last year to this year, and not only that, they will make an appearance in the finals.
Ooh, I wish I had your optimism, sir. I am a giant Sydney Swans fan, but I also live in reality a tiny bit. I also do have. I think Sydney's going to make a move this year just because they've got such a young, talented list. I think if they can get Buddy healthy and get Buddy on the track, I think it will only help Isaac Heaney and Tommy Papley up front. I think this is a team that can do some damage in the regular season. Will they make the finals? Swans fans, please don't be angry with me. I think they're just gonna fall short just because there's so many good
You
teams in the
think they're going to
top
be in
part of
that
the.
9-10 kind of spot right
I think
there?
so. I think they might just miss out. The lowest I see them being is about 11th, just because of the fact you've still got Melbourne could still be pretty solid, even with Ben Brown potentially missing most of the year. You just don't know. I think GWS still has a lot of young talent, but I think they've still got a lot of skill in certain areas. So I think they're going to be around in that area. Collingwood will be out of the eight, but will they be in that 9 to 12 range or will they be further down? That
Mm-hmm.
really is the question. I think the top eight teams are going to be difficult to beat on a weekly basis just because many of them are so good. So I have Sydney as my biggest mover,
Mm-hmm.
considering they finished out of 18 teams, they finished 16th.
Yeah,
So it's
only at
hard.
20 points. That's fine. See, the thing
Yeah.
I believe they're about 5 games out of the finals.
Hmm.
And last season, they had a lot of really close games. Arguably,
Yep.
some games that they should have won. There's some games that they won that they kind of shouldn't have. But it was this whole kind of
Hmm.
mix is what they had. It's not like they were a bad team. They just it's almost like they had the problem where they couldn't finish games or they couldn't just kind of to put it in this way come up clutch when they needed to.
Yep.
So
It was the
they
experience late for
so
sure. It was the
yeah.
experience late in some of those tough games. The Richmond game that Damien Hardwick got mad, the Geelong game, the last game of the regular season. Both were games that a little bit more composure late in that game, and they get 4 points from both of those games, and
They
maybe we have a
they
little
got
bit of a
close with
different
those
talk.
finals teams.
Yeah.
I think that I mean they Sydney. can make a huge jump this season, and I think you Swans fans have some good stuff to look forward to. They have a that club has a bright future ahead of them as long as they just continue this build, and I really like it. And Donnie, just to cap things off, we finished. Well, we're going to give you our wooden spoon near the end of here, real quick. Once we're done with our finals and finals predictions, but the top team for me, and you'll hear that when we get to our finals predictions, West Coast is going to be the regular season champions of this year. Man, I love this Eagles team. I can't believe what happened last year, but I think it's a new year for the Eagles, and I think they're going to smash it out of the park.
Oh man, so you're talking the regular season champions. I have the Geelong Cats. I think the Cats have went all in this season,
Mm-hmm.
cashing out their chips from the trade with Tim Kelly to get Jeremy Cameron in the door, signed
Please
some
stop
really
talking
solid
about that.
veterans.
It still hurts.
Sorry. They
Oh,
signed some really solid veterans in Higgins and Isaac Smith coming into this roster. The only thing I may question a tiny bit is that they didn't get any younger. That's the only thing that I would say is the problem with some of their signings. But this Cats team could look absolutely dynamically dangerous. I think they win. I think they win the minor premiership. I think they win the regular season title. But we'll get a little bit later on
well,
who I
let's
actually
not
think
spoil
will be
things,
raising the
Sonny. Let's
flag.
not spoil. But those are our biggest kind of predictions in terms of statements for next year. Now, let's talk about not the MVP, not the MVP. Let's make that clear. That's not what this is called. It's called the Brownlow Medal because I mean, for our American viewers, and for people like me, and for people that need to be corrected by AFL correspondents such as Donny Hess, is the Brownlow Medal, and do not call it anything else other than that. Otherwise, the Aussies will throw you to the Sharks and throw you to the Kangaroos once your body's done with that. So let's not mess around here. uh, but with this one, Donnie. So I don't sound like I'm just copying you because obviously, if you've been listening to this show long enough, Donnie Hess knows way more than I ever will, especially if you listen to our very first show when I had him on. That's now close to 25,000 views. Thank you so much for that, by the way. But Donnie knows everything when it comes to footy, seemingly. So I was kind of, I'm just going to give you my name here, and you can tell me how right or how wrong I am. And that is going to be a repeat in last year's winner. Lockheed Neal from Brisbane is set to repeat this year, especially because this Brisbane team is going to be better than it was last year. And so I think everyone's only getting better, and Neal's play is only going to be enhanced and improved coming into this season.
Yeah, Lockheed Neal is probably one of the most elite midfielders, and the scary part about it is this guy could be wearing a Frio jumper if it weren't, but because he decided he didn't want to be in Frio anymore, Frio thought he was going to be okay to move on. They moved him to Brisbane,
Poor Docker man.
and the all I know.
Shout out to
Sorry,
Docker
Docker,
man. Poor
Docker
guy.
man. I'm sorry, bud, but this that he is just he's such a good player. He's so good at getting around the footy. He's just so hard to stop. You need a big body midfielder to try to tag him, and it's so hard to tag him. Even taggers have trouble trying to stop him. So I I'm I got to give it to you. I completely agree with this call on this one. I have Lockie Neal as well, but I'm going to throw this in here.
Yes.
Two other names to keep an eye on that will not shock me if Brownlow Knight, these guys are also in the votes for sure, and that is Nat Fight out at Frio, because I'm thinking this Frio team, if they're much more improved, if they're as improved as I think they could potentially be, and with him kind of moving forward a little bit more and not being in the midfield as much, I think Nat Fife can have an absolutely dynamic season this year. But we'll have to see. His body has had some he's had some injury issues, and maybe with him not being in the midfield, he may not get as many votes. But this guy can be an absolutely electric player whenever he wants to be. We will see. And then I have to see a full season of the majestic Matty Riles from the Gold Coast Suns. He is a guy I have to admit, this is a Gold Coast team that they are an enigma. I don't know how to really gauge them because pre-Matty Riles injury, Gold Coast was absolutely dangerous. They could be, it seemed like they could beat anybody. post Matty Riles shoulder injury where
It's
he
a
was
different
done,
team.
they couldn't beat a wet paper bag. So that's kind of how things kind of went off. So Matty Riles another one that can he start off like he did last year? Can he be that electric midfielder that gets 30 possessions, 30 possessions, a couple of goals, and ends up being the most efficient and leads in meters gained in the entire field? We'll definitely have to see. And how does Gold Coast do from there? Can Matty Riles stay healthy the entire season? Because if he is, Gold Coast then legitimately could make finals if they stay healthy. And if this young man has the type of season that he was starting to have before old mother injury decided to rip his shoulder out of its socket.
Yeah, no, I had to. I felt bad for him because I know exactly how that feels. In surgery, rehab, your shoulder getting ripped out of the socket. Just for everyone listening, I personally do not recommend it. Don't recommend going through that because not only is it expensive to take care of, it's really painful. But I love that. Also, speaking of Gold Coast, Donnie, are we still looking for a Gold Coast fan for your Donnie's Disposal American AFL fan interviews?
Unfortunately, we still are. I have not been able to get a hold of anybody. If you are a Gold Coast fan and you are watching this, please reach out to me on Twitter at Coach Has 40, on Facebook, Donnie Hess from Des Moines, Iowa. Please reach out and get a hold of me. I'd love to have a chat with you so then I have all 18 teams, whether you're American or not at this point. I don't care. I would like to get a Gold Coast fan interviewed so we have all 18 teams up on the Donnie's Disposal site. So much fun. But
It's all
I'm
good. And then
glad
if
that
you're
I got
watching
the
on YouTube as well, drop a comment and then we'll get back out to you and hook you up with everything you need. And we will get you in contact with Donnie if you want to make an appearance because we would love to have you on. It feels like, I'm sorry, Gold Coast fans, but it's like, I've never seen the Gold Coast fan, whether it be on Twitter or like Instagram or in real life. Or are they real? Are they real? If you're real, please let us know, okay? Because I'm genuinely curious.
I think eventually we'll find them. They're quite low in numbers.
Oh, it's all good for you guys. We still love you. And then going from our prediction for the Brownlow medal, let's talk about Breakout Star for this season. Donnie, would you like to take the reins on this one first?
Oh man, breakout star. This was difficult because for me, a breakout star is somebody that hasn't really hit it big, and there's always some real good players, but there's one name that I just kept thinking this entire time,
Mm,
and maybe it's because of the fact he's the number one overall pick in this year's futures draft, and that is Mr. Jamar Oogle Hagen, the Western Bulldogs number one overall pick. This kid
Speak about
in
Western. Mm,
oh man, just this kid comes in, he's got height, he's got leaping ability, he's got the ability to kick goals. He's being compared to good old Buddy Franklin, which is not a bad comparison, but also
not
can
by any
can leave expectations quite high.
means. Mm-hmm.
Just everything that I've seen, this kid looks absolutely electric. The only question I would have potentially is will he see the field a lot with a very good Western Bulldogs team and a very deep list, but he brings something that the Western Bulldogs do not have going forward, and that's length and height. They have athletic ability, they have jumping and marking ability, but they don't have that height jumping and marking ability that he has. So I'm very intrigued to see, does he get the spot in round one, and then how does he do? Because if he has a good game, it's hard to take this guy out of your list or out of your lineup and sit him for a guy 6 inches shorter.
Yeah. And then for mine, I gotta say that it's no bias. I just kind of know him better with this one, but I have a really good feeling that this young guy is going to do some big things for what's a really young team in GWS and one of the youngest teams in the league. And that is midfielder Tom Green. Of course, he had a breakout game last year in round 17 against Melbourne. 21 contested possessions there in that game. Then, of course, in one of their recent matchups with Sydney in the preseason, he was able to get 11 contested possessions and a goal. This is a guy. It's I'm I know it's a little biased, maybe from the from fantasy drafts and stuff like that, but forwards, midfielders, those always seems like the guys to watch, some of the most exciting positions. Sorry, defenseman, sorry, ruckman. Everyone, you have your place. We all love you too, but sometimes it's these midfielders that really just have the light shown on them. But I think this is a guy that might be the one that if GWS was somehow able to actually make the finals this year, which I'm not putting a lot of faith in, but here's to hoping. I think it's because Tom Green would get them there. He would will them there, and he'd be the piece of the puzzle that actually is able to fit everything together, and he'd be the reason why GWS would see real success this year. So I got him as my breakout star.
Mm, you can go with what you know. That's not a bad thing at all.
See, I'm okay with that. Ooh, and now Donnie, and now here's where things get crazy because it's time for our finals predictions and brackets. So, going from 8 to 1, would you like to throw us your finals seeding?
Okay, so going off of a little bit of last year, going off some luck, going off of this is how I have it.
Yep.
Coming in the final spot in the eighth position, going into the playoffs, I have the Fremantle Dockers. I think
There
last
we
year,
go.
their defensive ability and their ability to push forward and to just stifle teams so much, they 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 did move out Hogan, but Hogan wasn't playing a lot. And I think some of that younger talent's only going to get better. I think
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be a team I think is going to make the eight. When you have teams like Collingwood and GWS falling out, I think Frio hops in. I know you had West Coast as one. I have them as seven. I think this is an aged group that I think is starting to fall back a little bit. They're having a lot of sore bodies after their Amy series, including Nick Nat Nui having some injuries. Luke Shuey potentially couldn't be playing. Elliot Yo is out for at least the first 4 weeks of the season. So
Oh yeah.
so I'm not as bullish about West Coast as some people are. I think they
Mm-hmm.
make the finals because I think this is one of those last years for their flag if they want it.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest question is, can they do that? Plus, will Willie Rioli, who's been sitting out for almost 2 years because of a tampered urine sample, he will be back in July. So the question is, can I get him full healthy? Because that may help their forward line a little
That'd
bit.
be huge.
But he's been out of footy almost 2 years, so that unfortunately could hurt him. St. Kilda will come in at six.
Mm.
This team only got better from a team that was quite good last year. You add Brad Crouch, you add some of the talent into this team that's already really good. Brisbane has finished second. I have them finishing fifth only because some of the teams in front of them I think got better than Brisbane got better. Yes, they bring in Danaher, but now Cam Rayner comes out with a knee injury. He's done for the season. Can Hugh McCluggage have a good year? Was Lockheed Neal Brownlow contenderish? We both think so. I think he's going to help them get there. The question will be is, can their defense hold up against some of these really good teams in the top four? In fourth place, I have the Western Bulldogs only because Adam Trelaw, Jamar Oogle come in. That's two amazingly big gets into this roster
Well,
that
the
was
thing is
already pretty solid as it was.
With the Western, you've been seeing the problem, Daniel, where it's like a lot of teams have like, okay, how are we going to fill out this midfield and how are we going to get things going? For Western, it's like, okay, how do we fit everyone into the midfield? How
Mm-hmm.
how do we actually use this plethora of talent that we have?
Yep.
I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Is the great problem to have for any coaches, an embarrassment of riches in the midfield, definitely
It's
for
insane. Well,
sure.
we talked about this in our last AFL breakdown. Just this Western Bulldogs team has gone so just the midfield alone has gone so
Mm,
much better, and I can't stop raving about them because I'm
yep.
super excited to actually see this in play. Because I mean, if we thought Geelong had a great midfield, which they do, and which they did last year, what kind of show is Western going to put on for us? I'm excited as hell for that.
We will definitely have to see. Going on from that, number three, I have the two-time defending champions, the Richmond Tigers. I think third place is where they are going to fall at.
The
I
same
have
place as
Port.
last year too.
I know. I have Port in second. I,
Ooh.
I, I think they just don't just they got better. I
Mm-hmm.
think they got a lot of talent, but I think Geelong has just got a little too much. And then Geelong will be the minor premiers and regular season champs. Now, if we go to our brackets that you wanted us to fill out, I scratched this out really quickly. I think I did pretty effectively, but we'll definitely have to see in our two preliminary final setup games. Geelong playing Western. I have the Cats win in that game. Um, the Cats are always one of those where if like they can win that game for sure, it will definitely have to depend on can they get through the bye week again. Chris Scott occasionally is not always good in that bye week, but he's got a few more guys that haven't had that bye week curse. Maybe they get over the hump
I
there. So
know
I
it's a
think
different kind of
Geelong
football,
sends
Donnie, but
Western.
does Andy Reid need to go over to the land down under and show this guy how to win after a bye week?
I don't know, maybe, but so that'll send Western down into the elimination final. We'll hop down to the bottom of the bracket, take on 2 versus 3, Port v Richmond, and I think Port gets this one done, especially being at home. I think they play better. I think Richmond isn't always as good without their fan base, so I will have Port moving on to the preliminary finals. And in the elimination finals, Brisbane versus Frio, 5 versus 8. I have the Brizzy Lions moving on at home. Frio is a very good defensive team, but Brisbane has so much talent. And if, as long as they can stay healthy, they are going to be a very difficult team in the playoffs. And in the other elimination final, I have St. Kilda versus West Coast. That would be in Melbourne. West Coast does not always travel to Melbourne well. So I have the Saints knocking out the Eagles, eliminating them, which would then lead to Western versus Brizzy in in the preliminary elimination final, and I have the Doggies knocking out the Lions. I think the Lions did get better, but the Dogs midfield is just going to be a little too much
Hmm.
for Lockheed Neal in that midfield. The other elimination, we have Richmond, St. Kilda, a repeat from last year, and unfortunately, I think history repeats itself. The Sainers go down to Richmond, moving the Richmond Tigers on to the preliminary final, where we will see a rematch of this last year's grand final, Geelong v Richmond. Sorry, Catters fans, I got Richmond. It is so hard to choose against Richmond and Dusty Martin in
Yeah,
the
it is.
finals. And in the other preliminary final, I have the Western Bulldogs versus Port. And I think Port's addition of Alir, and Orazio Fantasia will help them get over the hump, and the Port Adelaide Power will make the final. We will see a Richmond Tigers versus Port Adelaide Power in the finals. And to a good friend of mine who I've interviewed a couple of times on Donnie's Disposals, Miss Alyssa Zajan, you are going to love me. I have the Port Adelaide Power raising the flag at the
Wow.
end of the year.
Okay.
I'm taking a stretch, bringing the out of state team to be able to go into Melbourne potentially and beat the Tigers at the MCG. I know I'm crazy, but I'm willing to take that risk because I think I believe in this Port Adelaide team after what I've seen. So Ross, why don't you have a crack at your first
Yes, sir.
prediction of
Port
your
Adelaide.
finals?
Port Adelaide from Donnie. I love it. Also, first off, I want them to keep the bars Guernseys going because it's just a really fantastic look. But man, all right, let's see if I can follow you up now, Donnie. So from 8 to 1, and like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm pretty might be overly optimistic, overly high on Sydney, but I'm high on them. Sydney is your 8th spot going into these finals, and Donnie, like it's almost the opposite. Like Port Adelaide, they're 7. They're 7 in this bracket, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not because they're a bad team. I don't want people to think that. I don't think they're a bad team. I just think there's some tough games on their schedule that they're going to go through, especially
Mm-hmm.
early in the first early half of the season. I mean, round 3 and 4, you have West Coast and Richmond. A little later, you have Brisbane. You have Western, and then you have Geelong a little later. I mean, and then let's talk about. I mean, Sydney. Like, if they play the way that they did kind of last year, they could be one of those upset teams of Adelaide. So it's hard to schedule. I mean, and Adelaide also plays Western twice, so
Well,
that's.
and to add to your point too, is that Sydney, because of the way they do the scheduling, is that usually your doubles will be the teams around you from the previous season. So they'll get doubles against, I think they get doubles against Adelaide, North Melbourne, most of the teams around them. So if they pick up as well as you believe they do,
Mm-hmm.
they'll have 2 wins over Adelaide, 2 wins over North Melbourne, 2 wins over some of the teams around them. So they may be able to kind of pack their schedule with wins over some of the lower teams. The
Mm-hmm.
question will be then is that does that affect them when they play the bigger teams who they will only see once?
Exactly. I mean, we'll see. And also the thing with I guess seeding and stuff like that, not the better team is not always going to be the higher seed. a lot of times it's just luck in the season. It's these bigger games that can happen, and it's just it's scheduling too. If you get hot at the right time, you can get good. You can get a better seeding. Doesn't make you the better team. It's just a really weird dynamic. And then for our guy Docker Man, Frio is going to come in at number 6 on this. And with the loaded midfield, I got Western coming in at number 5, moving up from the previous number 7 in the ladder from last season. Then breaking into the top 4 now, I have the Richmond Tigers defending premier. They're going to be defending their premiership. They're going to be still making the top 4. They're going to go from last year 3 to this year 4. And then they're with that, they're going to be flip-flopping with the team that was 4 last year. Geelong and you Cats are going to be number 3 this year. And coming at the same place that they did last year, Brisbane, you're going to be the second best team in the league in the regular season, and you're going to fall just one spot short just again. I'm sorry.
Third straight season.
That's a tough one right there.
Forever the bridesmaid.
And then, like I said at the beginning, it's going to be the West Coast Eagles at number 1, Donnie. It's going to be West Coast at number 1. And then we're going to roll into the qualifying rounds, the preliminaries. It's going to be West Coast versus Richmond. I got West Coast taking that. Then the other game, the 2 versus 3, Brisbane, Geelong. I got Brisbane taking that one. And then, Port Adelaide, they might have finished slow. That doesn't mean they're just going to lose, okay? Because they are going to take down the Fremantle Dockers. And then I have Western. If Sydney's able to pull this off and able to get a finals berth, I'm sorry to get down the underdog, the dark horse of the finals already, but Western is going to be able to knock out Sydney. Sydney, great season, you guys. Great regular season. Round of applause for that. You're able to prove people wrong and make the finals, but you just might not be finals material, at least not yet. Just not yet. Maybe next year, the year after. Yeah, we'll see where we go from there.
And not a bad team to drop a final to.
Oh, I think there's no shame in that one. It could still be a really close game as well. The semis then is going to be Richmond versus Western. I got Western pulling up the upset as a 5 seed against a 4. Western's going to be taking that one. And then, sorry, Tigers fans. I know we have a lot of you guys that watch us and subscribe to us. I see you all you Richmond members down in our comments. I love you guys. I really appreciate you, but please don't hate me, okay? Please, don't. I see you going for that unsubscribe button if you're on YouTube. Don't click it. It's all good. We still love you guys. You're still a dynasty, and you still got Dusty. So who's the real winner and loser here? Then for the 7 versus 3, I have Geelong taking down Port Adelaide. Is something that they kind of were back and forth with last season. I think Geelong gets it done again this year. So that brings us to the prelims. It's not the semifinals. It's the prelims. It's something that I've had to get ingrained into my head with this whole, for me, it's a little janky of a finals, but it's janky setup. I like the way it plays out. I think it's really competitive, and so they got that going for them. So we're going to have West Coast, the 1, against the 3-seeded Geelong Cats. I got West Coast taking this one too, Donnie. I got them taking this one. It might just be maybe I've been reading into too much into the Aussie media about footy, but I kind of gotten hooked on Western from what I saw last year to this year. Please don't hate me. And then we have the 2 seed Brisbane against the 5 seed the Western Bulldogs, and the Western Bulldogs are going to take this one. Another upset, and we're going to get a grand final of West Coast and Western, the 2 teams of the West with this one. And a little anticlimactic, Donnie, but the 1 seed will finish as your grand final champions. They will take the premiership. The West Coast Eagles are taking the flag this year. I know you're not hot on them. I know you're not buying into it, but damn it, I've bought into them. They're taking the premiership, but Western's going to go all the way to the grand finals this year. And it doesn't matter what happens this year because next year they still can be back. They can be back the year after. I see a premiership within Western's future in the next handful of years. Just not this year, but they're still going to make that appearance, and it's going to be a fantastic finals that we have to look forward to.
There's that conviction in the West Coast Eagles. Who knows? You never know. And West Coast is so good at home, and when you've got 8 games out in Western
Oh
Australia
yeah.
in Optus Stadium, they're it's a cauldron. It's hard to win, and if they can get into that top 2 seats where they're going to be able to play at home for every round until the grand final, it's definitely possible. I just for me, this aged roster scares me a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because an injury here, an injury there, a manage here could cost them a couple of games.
Yeah.
And I think teams are slowly starting to figure out Western Australia. We'll definitely have to see. Um, I love your conviction. I absolutely love it.
You have to be.
That's absolutely not a problem. I mean, I think we all sometimes you go into the finals and you find that one team that you just fall in love with. It's like over here in the States when you NCAA tournament, when you fill out your bracket, you pick a team and you ride with it.
I gotta
So
ride
I,
with
I
it.
think
Also,
oh
there's a little bias here because I want them to have as many games as possible because damn, I love that light show going to the fourth quarter. It Optimus Stadium. I saw it for the first time. It was a live game that I was up at 2 in the morning for last year. I blink on who they were playing for that one. I believe they'd be playing the Collingwood. Yeah, it was against
mhm.
Collingwood in that first game of the finals I was watching. In that game where Mason Cox are going off out of nowhere and destroying the Twitter of the AFL world. But man,
Mhm.
that light show is fantastic. Okay, so but I like that, and man, I love Western though. I love Western in these grand finals. And if Western ends up actually winning the whole damn thing this year, I'm not going to be surprised.
You will then have to have a Nostradamus t-shirt. If that happens, oh, that'll be. I'm never going to hear the end of it, but I will absolutely love it. But let's twist from it. So we've talked through the finals, we've talked through the playoffs.
We talked the best team, and now let's go
Oh,
to the worst team,
let's
Donnie.
let's 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 flip to the opposite side. I gotta know for
Uh,
the first time ever, who Ross do you see taking home the beloved wooden spoon?
you know, maybe the team that had one of the worst off seasons, a team that doesn't know what the hell they're doing for their future, a team that just can't really make up their mind on whether it's time to hold on to the old guys or try to rebuild with the new ones, a team that's just kind of in this purgatory of what the hell are we going to do for the next few years. And that is going to be the Hawthorne Hawks. I'm sorry, guys, but you already got the brown in your colors, okay? It's time to match the brown to that spoon. You're unfortunately going to take that this year. Adelaide, lucky for you guys, you get out of the basement and you actually have a bottom four season instead of a bottom one season. So congrats to you guys. So build.
Oh man,
What about you
my
now?
my wooden spoon. I'll be honest. I've oh man, I bounced back and forth between several teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the Crows really showed a lot of progression last year, and when you play the style that they do, I don't think they're going to be at the bottom this year.
Actually
Though
winning three games, which we all never thought they would even do last year.
yeah, and like I said, it was their style of play that really helped them out.
Yeah.
There's 2 teams, potentially 3, but I don't. The third one, I'm a little less just because they do have more talent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the North Melbourne Kangaroos basically had a complete and utter flip. I mean, they literally it was like flip your house when it comes to their roster. They dropped 13 players off their list from last year, and they drafted a lot of young, talented. They got a brand new coaching staff after previous coach decided he was going to step away, and then parted ways, and conveniently now Reece Shaw is up in Gold Coast, which I thought that was quite an interesting little turn after everything that kind of happened.
A little bit.
um, but the other team that they may be this year's Adelaide, and it's the reason why I don't maybe see them being the wooden spoon, but it wouldn't shock me if they are, and that's Essendon, just
Mm,
because of the fact that Essendon Connor McKenna's gone.
Sorry,
Orazio
AFL
Fantasia is
obsessed.
gone. Stringer is starting to get older. Michael Hurley has a has an infection to the point where there's possibility he may not even play this year. So it's like, unfortunately, this is an Essendon team that I think a lot like North Melbourne. They're going to play a lot of young kids. They're going to try to kind of get through this season with the least amount of damage to their reputation as possible, because I just don't see them getting many wins this year. So it's either North Melbourne or Essendon. If you force me to choose one, I'm gonna pick the Roos, just because I think the Roos have even more turmoil than more turnover than Essendon did. But it will not shock me if either North Melbourne or Essendon unfortunately take home the trophy that you never want to win, and that is the wooden spoon.
Hey, at least you guys are winning something, because it certainly won't be games this season. Oh, and Donnie, that's going to do it for our 2021 predictions. Let's roll into our round one tips for this. Of course, going into calling back to the competition we're doing. These are our tips for round one action, and the first game of round one is going to be it's gonna be something, because it's gonna be real early,
It
at
is
least
the
for me.
Richmond Tigers versus the Carlton Blues.
See, shout
And
out to
sir,
this round though, because we have two games that are before 9 p.m. my time. Oh, I love afternoon of football. Oh, thank you guys so much for that. You're saving me hours of sleep.
yes, it
God bless
definitely
you,
for sure.
schedulers.
But the usual opener is the Richmond Tigers versus the Carlton Blues. And sir, you are joining the tipping competition this year. So I will be a generous expert, and I will let you have the first pick of the season.
Ooh,
Who do you got? Do you got the Tigers or do you got the Blues?
it's going to be not the Blues, because Richmond's just a really damn good team this year. They're coming off their premiership, okay, in a really good showing over the Geelong Cats. They're not going to lose any momentum. They are going to take the first game of the 2021 AFL season, and they're going to do it by a decent margin.
Yeah. Well, 2 weeks ago, I'd have been a little more. I would have been a little more bullish on looking at the Carlton Blues, but unfortunately, Zach Williams in the Amy series decided to do a high shoulder bump and decided to get himself suspended for 2 weeks. So when you lose one of your marquee superstars that you were going to play in the midfield out of your team against what I would probably say is one of the best teams in the
Yes.
entire competition as we know of right now, that's a known commodity, unlike the Western Bulldogs, where we don't know how Chalor comes in. We don't know how some of these superstars come in. I'm going to go with Richmond as well on this one. I think it's going to be a tiny bit closer because Sod being there is going to help repel a few more things. I think Carlton's got a little bit more momentum, but the injuries and then the suspension to Zach Williams, I think is going to catch up to them late. I think Richmond will do like they normally do. It'll be close for the first couple of quarters. The
Mm-hmm.
third quarter, Richmond will start to kind of take over, and then the fourth quarter, the ambush really will happen for them. So we will move on. Game number two is the Collingwood Magpies versus the Western Bulldogs. We get to see the Western Bulldogs take the field, hopefully with Adam Treloar in tow on the mighty MCG. Who do you got, Ross?
Come on, man. You already know who I'm going to take in this one. I really want to say Collingwood, damn it, but it's not going to be Mason Cox. It's going to be the best midfield in all of footy. It's going to be the Western Bulldogs getting things done in their first game, and what's going to be a closer game than previous Richmond Carlton game. Maybe a couple goals of a margin, probably less, but I think it's going to be Western getting done in the end.
I will agree with you. This Collingwood team has just had so much overhaul and change. I think Timmy English is going to have a field day tapping it down to some of the absolute superstars that is this Western Bulldogs midfield. I think Collingwood will keep it close. It is round one. Trelaw will take a little bit to kind of gel with his new teammates,
Yeah, and you
and,
got.
and, and
I think this is a really good matchup to have if you're Western, because you're not playing against a slouch of a team, so you're going to have solid competition to go up against. But it's not your Brisbane's, it's not your Richmond's, it's not your Port Adelaide's. It's not your Brisbane's and stuff like that. It's not something you're going to get slammed at in terms of competition. So it's going to be a good game to kind of get your feet under you and kind of start the molding and gelling of that midfield.
Yeah, and I think that getting Collingwood at this time might be perfect because it lets you air out some of these issues and it lets you kind of get through some of the growing pains that is going to be these first few weeks when it comes to getting used to your new teammates on full-fledged regulation game. We will definitely see. Moving on, the third game of the round, also on the MCG ground, will be the Melbourne Demons hosting the Fremantle Dockers. Who do you got in this intriguing matchup early in the season?
Hey, yo, Docker man, you're gonna love me for this one because Frio gets it done in their first game of the season. But I think that this has the potential to be one of the closest, if not the closest, game of the opening round of the AFL season.
Yeah, this will be quite interesting because I need to see how Melbourne is going to score in this game because of the fact that they bring over Ben Brown from North Melbourne and now knee injuries look to potentially be sidelining him for most of this particular season. And Frio last year was a team that where they were so defensively solid. Their problem was is they weren't always as solid going forward. So this will definitely have to see is who can get the points falling for them early in this game. We'll definitely have to
I
see.
think it's gonna be a low
I
scoring game, kind of defensive between Frio's
Yep.
defense and between Melbourne's seemingly their inability to score. It's might not break 50, might be in the 40s.
With the longer schedule, I think we'll get to 60. Maybe we'll cross our fingers on that one. But I agree. I think this could be as accurate. Accuracy might be the telltale sign of this particular game is who can kick the goals and who won't. I also agree. I think I'll take Frio with this one, but it'll be quite an interesting matchup with this one. Melbourne. They're such going to be an enigma until we figure out if Ben Brown's going to be able to don the blue and red for the Demons for sure. But this Frio team is I think potentially a finals team. So I think Frio will pull this one out. We hop over to the Adelaide Oval where the Crows try to get off the schneid of the wooden spoon, and the matchmakers did not give them a very nice present for this season,
No,
getting
they did not.
face the Geelong Cats. Do we give Adelaide any chance in this one?
Do we? Okay, that's a great question, Donnie. It's not that. Do we? It's not whether Geelong's going to win or not. It's whether if Adelaide even has a chance or not in this game. And that answer is it's going to be a glorified Amy. Okay, Geelong is just gonna like it. There's no way. No matter how you dice it, no matter how you slice it, no matter how you cut it, there's no way that Adelaide even stands a remote chance of winning this game. It's Geelong all the way.
Yeah,
It's a
this
tough. I feel
Cats.
bad for Adelaide for having to start against this.
See here. I'm gonna contradict you a tiny
Okay.
bit, but hear me out here.
Yeah, hearing you out.
This is the first game of the season. The Cats have some new players coming in. The gelling again, kind of like Trelaw in the midfield with the Western Bulldogs. I think some growing pains are going to happen
Mm-hmm.
early in this game. Now, in the Amy series, Jeremy Cameron and Tommy Hawkins fit really well together, and I think they kind of gelled well. But this is going to be full-fledged regular season game. This Adelaide Crows team has no pressure on them. Most
No.
people are expecting them to be the bottom half of the ladder. They may come out and surprise the Cats early in this game, give them the punch in the mouth, and then we got to see how Geelong responds. If Geelong responds with the "you little whippersnapper, I'm going to kick your rear end," then I'm a little scared for this young Crows team.
It's like poking a
But
sleeping
if they
giant.
but if they flinch, if the
Mm,
Cats flinch, be a little afraid, Cats fans, because this Crows team is going to be pesky. They're
oh man.
going to be a tough out. They may not have the talent, but Matty Nix at the end of the year got this team playing together. So do watch out.
Watch out.
The first 10 minutes of this game, and it being on the road too.
Mm-hmm.
Two factors I always like to take on: where's the game being played and who is the matchup, because the Crows can play with utter abandon. If they get blown out by 60, it happens, but don't be surprised if the Crows punch Geelong in the mouth, and then we got to see how Geelong responds. If they
Mm.
flinch, who knows?
But
Who
you still
knows?
taking Geelong in this one though?
I'm gonna take the Cats, but
But
I
be
think this
weary.
is closer than people think. I think this
Okay.
is under
This is probably the
under
trap game of
three
the
goals.
week, huh? Is this your trap game of the week?
This could be your trap. This could be
Oh,
your trap really early in the season for a Cats team that has a ton of pressure on it to be in the top two and for a chance to win the flag. And we go from that interesting matchup to a very interesting matchup.
battle of the wooden spoons
Essendon
potentially.
down at the Marvel State down at Marvel Stadium,
Oh
we have
boy.
the Essendon Bombers versus the Hawks, who at least gets their season off with a little bit of positive momentum
Hey,
here.
Donnie, I guess I'm taking Essendon in this one. Maybe I don't know what to choose. It's going to be the worst game of the round. It's for the reasons we mentioned, both why these teams could be or should be considered favorites to take the wooden spoon this year. It's another reason. That's just another example of why this isn't going to be the best game. And I'm definitely not looking out for this one. So I might catch it later in the day on the replay on the Watch AFL app. But no, I'm not waking up to watch this one. But I got Essendon out of just maybe.
See, I'm gonna go a tiny bit the other way. I
Really?
experienced heads play better, and Alistair Clarkson is one of the best coaches in the league. Now,
Mm-hmm.
with your and I say this as completely respectfully, you never saw Alistair Clarkson with the masterful job that he did for those so many years, taking an aged Hawthorn team to grand final and flag
Mm-hmm.
and grand final and flag for 3 consecutive seasons in a row. The man is a genius. He is the Bill Belichick of the AFL.
Oh, that's
There's
scary. Never mind.
no way to argue that. Okay, this is. I mean, last year for the Hawks was Belichick's this year with the Patriots.
Mm.
I mean, that's kind of the way it was. Is so I give Burgoyne and this older Hawks team the go in this one only because you've got Alistair Clark, one of the best coaches in the league. You've got a much more experienced team. You've got a very young Essendon team. I think it's going to take some growing pains. They're going to take a few kickings this year. The question is, do they learn from it? That's the biggest thing. I'm going to go the Hawks on this one, but I think Essendon is the youth factor here. Is can the youth factor show up?
Mm.
I have the Hawks, but the Essendon, I think the Bombers keep this close. I think for me, this isn't the ugliest game, but this could be the least clinical game. We'll say it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. At least after this, we get a really nice palate cleanser of what should be a really good first round game.
Oh boy, Brisbane hosting the Sydney Swans. A very tough matchup for the
Yeah.
Swans coming out of the gate, and for both teams really, because I think both teams have a lot of positive momentum going into
Mm-hmm.
this year. I am a diehard Sydney Swans fan, but it is so hard for me to see this young Swans team with some deficiencies in certain areas beating this Brisbane team that is full strength. Yes, Cam
Mm-hmm.
Rayner did go down with a knee injury, but they still have Lockheed Neal. They still have potentially a Danaher who could be a Coleman medalist. Every time he steps on the field, Eric Hipwood is only getting better. Hugh McCluggage is solid. Jeremy Cameron is an absolute gun. I'm gonna go Brizzy, but I think this is closer than I think some people think. I think it's under 2 goals, just because I think Sydney is going to be a gritty team this year. I think they're going to have to kind of fight wins out this year.
I'm going to be right there with you. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. It's going to be a Brisbane win, but don't be surprised if this Sydney team pulls the dub off in round one, and it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a hard fought, scrappy game. It's going to be that game where Brisbane, they're fast and they can fly around. Sydney might be able to actually have the ability to slow them down a little bit and make it a closer game than maybe what a lot of people think it should end up being.
Yeah, you got to make it a slugfest for Sydney this year because the talent is on the other side for sure.
Yeah.
You can't argue that there's more talent on the other side. If you can make this a gritty, tough, physical footy game, you have a chance to win it. But if it gets to finesse or the ball is zipping around,
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane does have the advantage when it comes to it there.
Oh, 100%. Now this next game though, Donnie. I mean,
Oh
do we
boy,
even really need to talk about it? Is it?
this this
Can we just say Port
this could
Adelaide and
be
move on?
this could be the blow this could be the blowout of the round, and I
Oh.
hate saying it.
If you
North,
like offense, you're gonna like
welcome
this
to
game
your,
because it's gonna be all from one team, though.
oh boy, North Melbourne, welcome to your 2021 season. Here's Port Adelaide. Oh boy, Port wins this one by at least 30. If form goes the way I think it is, I think Port wins this one quite easily. This could be a 6-7 goal win for sure.
The next game, though, I think it's quite the opposite because this has a chance to be one of the more competitive games of the opening round of the season between GWS and St. Kilda. GWS, a fringe team last year. St. Kilda, a team that was in the finals. I mean, they didn't last too long, though. But both of them, great talent. And Donnie, I hate to say this, it's definitely a bias one. There's bias playing a role in this. I think GWS. It was so weird because GWS's season last year, hot and cold, up and down. I mean, they'll win the big game and then they'll lose the bad game. It's stupid, but I think here's the optimism, Donnie. The Giants get it done in round one.
Oh, I wish I had your optimism, dude. I really do. But this St. Kilda team does have more talent. This GWS team lost a ton of talent over the offseason. They're going to be breaking in a lot of new players. We'll definitely have to see their ruck stocks got completely kind of dismantled with losing that. Plus the fact that their backup ruck who they brought in, Braden Pruce, looks like he's going to be out a while. So big Shane Mumford is can only do so much in there.
He's going to do
Yes, the
everything.
St. Kilda will lose Brad Crouch to a suspension, so he will
Yeah.
not be playing. But this St. Kilda team has a tiny bit too much talent for me. I'm gonna go St. Kilda on this one, but this GWS team is going to be scrappy. I think they're going to give a lot of people headaches just because, again, kind of like Adelaide, kind of like North Melbourne, kind of like Essendon, they can go out and play free flowing footy because there's not a lot of expectation on this GWS
No,
team for
not even the
sure.
fans are expecting anything this year. I could say that.
and,
Oh,
and
I'm a
sometimes that's the best season to have
top
because you
10,
can go
Donnie.
in
Top
free and
10,
loose.
top 10.
You can go in free and loose for sure. And then
uh,
the final game of the round, the West Coast Eagles hosting the Gold Coast Suns at Optus Stadium. Matty Riles, hopefully he is back, and that will make for quite an intriguing game. In this one, what do you think?
Is it going to be intriguing? I mean, if you heard anything what I say about the finals and the grand final, the best team in the regular season for this season, Donnie, is going to have to get things started off on the right foot. They're going to take this game. It's going to be a couple goal game. It's not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be a comfortable win for West Coast out there in Optus and be able to get the ball rolling early, excuse me, and be able to get things kicked off to a good start.
Yeah, I think West Coast wins this just because I think they do have the older heads. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is Nick Nat's been fighting a little bit of some soreness, and with Elliot Yeo being out, Shuey battling some soreness. Some of their older bodies, I think, it'll definitely have to see how they come up after the Amy series for sure. Matty Riles coming off a long shoulder injury, so we'll definitely have to see how rusty he's going to be through all of this. I'm gonna go West Coast on this, but I think this could be an absolute cracking game. This could be one of those last kick potentials just because Gold Coast, I think if the young talent can show up, they're going to give people headaches just because Matty Rowell is a pain to try to stop. Isaac Rankin is a goal snake. He can score from anywhere if he gets just the right look. The biggest question is, can they stop people defensively for the for Gold Coast? Can they get stops? If they can stop teams from scoring, Gold Coast is going to be a tough team to beat. I'm going to go West Coast, but only because I think that some of the premier talent is going to have to kind of warm up. I think
Mm-hmm.
Gold Coast could be my microwave team. Once they get
Mm.
hot, they could get real hot real quick. So, but we'll
Love that.
definitely
And,
have.
I mean,
But
if it's
I will go West Coast.
I'm all for a last kick kind of game as long as it's not the last kick that's kind of like one of those, Carlton and Fremantle last kicks because I would like to avoid that especially considering it's the first round of the season, so let's not get into too much controversy too early. That's some stuff more for middle of the season, maybe a little more late. But Donnie, that's going to do it for us for predicting the 2021 AFL season. For all of the things that we went over, we would love for you guys to let us know what you think, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be in the YouTube comments, or best of all, you can leave a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts with the winner of this year's grand final. We thank you so much for joining us. I want to know what all you guys think. I truly do. And please let us know. We'll be putting posts out on all of our socials once this drops about the bracket and about the tips competition and giveaway we're going to be doing for the winners. So please reach out to us, get in contact with us, because we want to make this as fun as possible and to have the most people involved as possible. And just to wrap things up, would like to give a thank you to our Patreon sponsors, and like usual, thank you to Ray Rodriguez for all your card collecting needs. Follow at the Big Bat Box on Instagram. Shout out to Neil Wiley and his YouTube channel Chosen Problems, and Patreon member Ryan Watson. Coach, what are you looking forward to most? If you can describe your feeling going to 2021 in one word, was or here, I'll be nice. One word or phrase. Was that one word or phrase?
Man, one word. Excitement. I'm excited for this season because fans are back at the footy, and there's going to be a ton of excitement. Yep, we'll definitely have to see how that goes. Is how the fan support how that is going to affect some of these games. I mean, here in the Richmond Tiger Army in full throat, which we did not get to hear much of last year, will definitely be interesting. So excitement would be my word for the season.
I think it's my first kind of full season I'll be able to witness. So I think with that, it's just anticipation is what I'm going to roll with, because I have no idea what to expect of a full footy season, but I am all here for it. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the first bounce of the 2021 AFL season, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.